Okay, so welcome. My name is Luis Chavez Mattis. I'm the director of product here at MindStudio, and I am very excited to teach you all a little bit about AI agents today and MindStudio. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and really briefly talk about MindStudio for just a couple seconds. The point is not to introduce you to everything on the platform, but this is what we're going to be using to build our AI agents. MindStudio is a platform that lets you build all kinds of agentic workflows. You get to design, build, and deploy your AI agents. It's kind of like this environment where you can drag blocks around, really easy to use. There's a lot of interesting people that are actively using MindStudio to make all kinds of agents. And when people use MindStudio and they compare us to other tools, particularly automation tools, they end up comparing us to a tool called N8N. Who's heard of N8N before? Okay, great. Um, so the comparison between N8N and MindStudio typically revolves around, it goes a bit like this. N8N is kind of like Linux, and MindStudio is kind of like iOS or Windows. Now, what people typically mean by that is if you want to get super low level, all the small technical intricacies of an agent, like you might use N8N. There's a little bit of a technical barrier to, get started. MindStudio has a much cleaner, much simpler interface. So if you just want to make things that work very quickly, um, you would use MindStudio. And another unique thing about MindStudio is that we instantly connect you to over 200 different AI models. These are API connections from directly from the MindStudio service router to these companies. So you do not need to set up connections to all these services. You start building and you have instant access to tons of different AI models, text models, image models, video models from all the major model providers. In addition to that, when a new model comes out, it goes live on the platform, within 24 to 48 hours. We don't have a markup on the cost to use the models. Although you do pay for the usage of the models, but it's billed at cost. So whatever it would cost you to use the model via your own API connection, it would cost the same thing on MindStudio. The other thing so there's a bunch of stuff on our website, but I do want to draw your attention to right, this thing right here. There are a bunch of different types of agents that you can build on MindStudio. There's a bunch of different ways in which you can deploy your AI agents. So I just really quickly want to cover the types of agents, and that'll actually lay the foundation for some of the agents that we're going to be building today. I'm going to show you how to build a bunch of different agents. I'm going to show you a build pattern that will unlock hundreds of new use cases for you, and that's relatively easy to build. Within a matter of minutes, we can get a new agent live. So the first agent type is this AI-powered web app, and this is an agent that you will deploy, you will publish it, it'll get a unique link, and then you or anybody you send it to can open up the link, interact with the AI agent just on its own in its own tab, and you can kind of design the interface kind of however you'd like. It's kind of like a little web app. Um, the other type of agent is it's called an autonomous agent. This basically means it can do something in the background on a regular schedule. So you can say every day at 9 a.m., I want you to scan this website and tell me if anything's changed. And if something's changed, send me an email, right? This is a style of autonomous agent continues to run until you turn it off, essentially. Then there's also browser extension agents. And for those of you that are paying close attention to my screen here, you'll notice that I have this little dock here on the side of my screen. This is the MindStudio Chrome extension. And if I click on this arrow, I have access to these buttons. And each of these buttons will open up and run an AI agent. And it will be able to take all of the contextual information from the web page and do something with that information. These are the agents that we're going to be building in this workshop. I'm going to show you how easy it is to build these kinds of agents, and I'll show you kind of what they do, what they look like in just a second. So this is the MindStudio Chrome extension. You can deploy agents and run them while you are browsing the web. We also have email triggered agents. which basically each individual agent gets a unique email address, and you can forward emails to that agent. It will then be able to take all of the information from that email and then do something with that information. And then for more technical people, if you are building your own applications, all of these agents can be triggered either via webhook or via API endpoint, meaning you can connect them to other services that allow you to do these sorts of things. And then we won't dive into agentic MCP servers, but you can also make your agents available as tools for a chat client that allows for MCP servers. So the other thing to note about MindStudio is we are venture backed. We've raised $36 million to date. There are a bunch of interesting people that have invested in our company. Former CEO of Disney, founder of Zynga, people from Google and LinkedIn and Uber and Roblox, bunch of interesting folks from interesting companies. You can check out more on our website. So that's it. That's all the beginning intro stuff. Let's actually dive into the more practical, which is let me show you these AI agents in action. So I'm going to be showcasing a couple of agents in this browser extension, and these are agents that I've built. And the first one here is called TLDR. And what TLDR does is it will scan a web page and extract all of the learnings from that web page. So this works on a variety of different web pages. Let's take a look at how it looks. If this is an article about movie going, right? It's a super long article, long research paper. Somebody took the time to write all of this. I don't have time to read all of it, but I can click on this magic button, this TLDR button, to run this agent. And you'll notice that the side panel opens up and it's able to extract the information from this page and just give me the most important things that I need to know. Now, notice it is not summarizing the page. It's actually synthesizing the information and telling me, what I actually need to know, right? Like what is the thing that I need to take away from this page? And it depends on the length of the page, right? Where we will be able to get different sized responses. So here we have, debunk theories, all learnings from um, what a century plus pandemic does to movie going. So really useful, gives me everything I need to know. And this also works inside of YouTube videos. So for example, I have this podcast. This podcast is an hour long. It's Star Talk with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Talks about space. I love space. Love listening to his podcasts. And I get forwarded um, a lot of different podcasts, right? But I don't have time to listen to every single podcast. Even if I listen at 2 times speed, this is 30 minutes of my time. I just want to know the important things that I need to know. And so what I can do, I'm not zoomed in, so this is a little smaller, but I just click on that TLDR button. And then you can see that it will pull the YouTube transcript. Do-do-do-do. Hold on 1 second. There we go. It takes a second to load sometimes when I'm presenting on Zoom. I don't know why Zoom kind of eats up um, my like computing resources, but it does sometimes. But you can see here that it is starting to generate the most important things that I need to know from this podcast, right? Discovery of accelerating expansion, the Hubble tension problem, all of these like very interesting things were extracted from the transcript of this YouTube video. And so your agents can access information from YouTube videos. And then lastly, it also works on PDFs in the browser. And these PDFs need to be text. They can't be images. But if you can highlight the text on the page, you should also be able to run the agent here. So this is a book of mice and men. I read this in high school a while back, and if you wanted just the quick summary and the themes and characters, you get this. It analyzes all 107 pages of this book, tells me the things that I need to know about this particular book, right? So this agent is very easy to build. So I'm going to go ahead and build it for you, and I'll show you how it works. So here I am on the MindStudio homepage. When you create an account, you'll see this button that says My Workspace. Create an account, you're taken to your workspace here. Now, there's a bunch of resources. We have a bunch of different templates for ready to use agents. We also have these sections on the left-hand side that have a bunch of different agents that you can take a look at. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But I'm going to go into this created by me section, and I'm going to click on new agent at the top right. When we get to this new agent screen, we see this welcome screen that has resources to, MindStudio University, which is a bunch of video courses that we've put together to teach you all about building different kinds of AI agents. We also have access to our documentation and, links to things like additional boot camps and trainings and our community forum and things like that. We don't need this tab, but you'll notice that there are two tabs here at the top of the screen. So I'm just going to close out of this tab by clicking on that X button. This is actually what I want to show you. This is called the automation canvas. And we are looking at an AI agent workflow here. You can see here, I'm in the workflows folder. Main.flow is what's highlighted. And all workflows start out in the same way. They have a start block, which starts the workflow, an end block that ends the workflow, and then there's everything in between. And we can add new blocks to our workflow by clicking on this plus button. So you'll notice that there are some of the most commonly used blocks up front, but if you click on View All Blocks, we actually have 152 different blocks to choose from that all do different things. They can generate text and images and videos and charts, use AI to, generate all kinds of things. They can get data from various different places, whether that's scraping URLs or, querying your own databases or collecting information via Google Forms style form fields. They can route your workflow in a bunch of different ways. They can tap into social media platforms. They can tap into, your Google Docs and Google Sheets, Calendar and Gmail. And they can also programmatically send emails or SMS messages or post to Slack. And so there's a bunch of different blocks here. We also have over 850 connectors, which will connect to various third-party services. So if there's a service that you're interested in tapping into that is not on this list, you can always request a connector and you'll be taken to a form where you can let us know, oh, I'm looking actually to plug into this service because this is what I want to do with my AI agent. So a bunch of different options here. All of these blocks do one very specific thing, and you basically will create this sequence of actions that your AI agent will take. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on this generate text block. And this generate text block is probably the most common block that you'll encounter on MindStudio because what it does is it makes a call to an AI model. You send it a prompt, a one-shot prompt, and you get a response from that AI model. And you can use that response in a number of different ways. So we've added this generate text block. Now we need to be able to pull in
Open this up. I'm
content
putting my flour
from
in it.
the page. Josh, can we mute everyone, please? Thank you, thank you. Thanks, Josh. Um, so how do we get the content from a web page? Well, remember the page that I was showcasing that showed you different kinds of agents that you can make. The start block in our workflow here, you see this start block here, has this thing called a run mode, and that run mode will determine the type of AI agent that you're building. So I can click on demand and I can switch the run mode from on demand to browser extension. What that does is it allows me to pin my agent to the browser extension dock that you saw earlier. And it also makes all of these things called launch variables available to us. These launch variables represent different pieces of information. So launch variables are really easy to understand. Really, variables in general, really easy to understand when we think back to our time in like grade school algebra, we learned about variables where x equals something and y equals something else. The same concept applies here, only in this case, URL equals the actual URL of the web page that we're on, right? The page content equals all of the text content on this page. So it's as if I had, pressed Command A on this page and copied this and placed it, somewhere, right? Used it somewhere. So we have now access to all of this additional data because we are getting that data from the web page. We can call this data and use it inside of our AI prompt uh, by calling the variable, which is done. Excuse me, lost my my sentence there. We can call a variable by using these double curly braces. So that is the key above the enter key on the keyboard. Where you see those square brackets, you hold shift and you click on those. This gives us a list of all of these variables that we have access to, and we're going to be using this page content variable. Now we can give it some instructions. Extract key learnings, right? And we can just, I'm going to take a little side quest here and just give you some information about, proper prompting techniques. I use a very simple framework when I prompt an AI model. There's three pieces to it. The first is context. What is the information that the AI model is going to need in order to execute the task, like the thing we're asking it to do? This page content effectively is all of the context that we need to provide. Here's everything from the web page. Now we give it the second part, we give it a task, right? Extract key learnings from that content. The third is optional. It is the format, how we want the response to look. So if you want a very specific style of response, you can then prompt it to do that. So let's quickly so we've basically got those first two pieces. The other technique that I'm going to introduce you to is a technique called tagging. And when we prompt an AI model, this is good practice, even if you're interacting with like Claude or ChatGPT or whatever. It's good practice to use this technique called tagging. And the way it works is we use these angled brackets, and then inside of those angled brackets, we add a label. What this does is it separates and defines um, what this is. It's basically like a label maker for your prompts, right? So we're saying, okay, everything inside of these tags, these labels, is considered content. So now we can say extract key learnings from content, right? Is that making sense? You following me? This is basically just a way to say, hey, this is the content. This little slash basically means this is the end of that label. Everything after that is no longer content. And then we're saying, okay, extract the learnings from content. So that's it, right? That's the whole agent. We just built an agent. Let's go ahead and, finalize it. We'll give it a thumbnail. We'll give it a name. We can do that really easily by clicking on the name here at the top of the page, where we get taken to our agent settings. It's also this top folder here on the left. And there's a bunch of different settings. You don't have to pay attention to any of this for this workshop. The most important thing is you give your agent a name. So I'm going to call this demo TLDR, right? You can add also an optional icon. I can go to flat icon. I can look for a bolt of lightning. Here we go. This one looks good. And I'm using it for my own personal use, so I don't need to add any sort of attribution. I can just use this icon here. Now I can go ahead and open it up and upload it. Now we have our agent icon. So now we're done. We're completely done with our agent. The last step is simply to publish the agent. We click on that publish button at the very top right of the screen. Might take a second or two, but once it's done, you have this ability to open up the AI agent. Now, this agent is not designed for a web page like this. Remember, we designed it to be used inside of the Chrome extension. And if you don't have the Chrome extension, you can very easily click on this Add to Chrome button, install the extension, and then we want to pin the extension in our dock. So I'm going to click on these three dots, and this gives us a bunch of options. And one of those options is pin in extension. That's going to add it to the dock so that the next time we run this, let's go ahead and refresh the page here. We can now see that agent is available inside of our dock, right? So now when I click on that agent, it is going to analyze this page and extract the key learnings from the page. So we've effectively finished building the TLDR agent, right? Now, this is super simple, right? And I'm intentionally making this example very simple. Your agents might have more instructions here. They might have more data. But I want to introduce you to this very simple pattern of building where we get data from somewhere, we process it with AI, and then we display it back to us. This very simple pattern now unlocks hundreds and hundreds of use cases. While you're browsing the web, if there is some sort of small, simple thing that you do over and over and over again, you can now set up an agent to do that, where you just click a button and it does all this work for you, right? So let's use this one block pattern to um, make something different, completely different use case, right? Let's say I instead of you know summarizing and extracting the learnings from the page, I actually wanted it to do something else. Like, let's say I wanted to go to Yahoo Finance and analyze a stock for me. We'll go into most active stocks. There we go. We've got NVIDIA here. I can click on the ticker, go to the page. Let's say I wanted to see, is this a good time to buy this stock or not? You know, let's, there's a bunch of info on here on this page that we can use to make that decision. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first reorganize my tabs so we don't get confused. I'm going to go back and make another agent. There's the agent. We are going to do the same thing. Change the start block to this browser extension run mode so that we can get the content from the page. We're going to add this generate text block. And for my label, for my tag, I'm just going to type in stock. And you want to add that slash. And then on the inside of these labels, I'm going to add that page content. And you don't have to, you may have noticed I indented. You don't have to indent, but it makes it easier for me to read. And so that's why I do that. But now we've labeled our stock, right? We can then say, you know, analyze stock and generate a fundamental analysis. Specifically, I want to know whether or not it's a good time to buy this stock. Okay. Now we're done. Same exact pattern, completely different use case, completely different agent, right? Super simple. Um, let's go ahead. We'll give it a name. I'm going to call this, demo stock analyzer. And let's find an icon. Here we go. That's perfect. And now we can give it an icon. We publish the agent. And then we pin it to our extension by opening it up, clicking on the three dots, and then clicking Pin in Extension. Now it's available in our dock, right? There's our stock analyzer that we just built. Took less than 5 minutes to make this agent, right? Let's click on it. and begin running it. And it's going to analyze this and give us this analysis of this stock and tell us whether or not it's a good time to buy this stock. You'll notice I don't have to give it the exact output. It generally knows what we mean by fundamental analysis, right? Here's an executive summary, cautiously bullish outlook. Here's the valuation metrics. Here's the financial health of the company, the growth and performance year over year, market position, investment recommendation, buy. Great. For long-term investors, definitely. For short-term investors, maybe not so much, right? But this is all super useful information for me. I just built a stock analyst in 5 minutes that gives me, these recommendations. Now, I am showing this to you with a big asterisk, a giant caveat to all of this. I am not a financial analyst. I am not a stock analyst. But if you are, you have the knowledge you need to prompt this AI model in the right way. What do I mean by that is just because we're building a stock analyzer. I don't want the takeaway to be like, oh, I can build something that analyzes stocks. I want you to look back at your own life and at your own work and realize that you are the knowledge expert. You know exactly what you need, right, in order to get things done faster. You know the inefficiencies in your own work. And you can take that knowledge and you can apply it to any AI agent that you build, right? So this is an extremely simple pattern, but there's a lot of power behind it, right? I'm gonna go ahead and we're just gonna build one more just like this, and we're gonna kind of build off of this. So let's say I want to take an agent and have it, generate a social media post for me, for example, and I want to automatically post that thing to LinkedIn, right? I can, let's say maybe we want to, make a social media post about this podcast, right? I can go into MindStudio and create a new agent, and we're going to do the same thing. Start block, browser extension run mode, generate text block. We're going to give it the content. We're going to feed in the page content. And we're going to say, based on content, generate a social media post that forms a strong opinion about the content. Okay. We can also say sometimes the AI agent likes to say, okay, here's a post, and we'll include that as text. We don't want it to do that. We just want the post itself. We're going to say reply with only the final post text and nothing else. Right? Let's go ahead and give this an icon. There we go. That's perfect. I can call this demo LinkedIn post generator. We'll give it the icon and we'll publish it. And now when we open this up, we can pin it in the extension. And now I can generate a LinkedIn post for this video here. Might take a second to think about it, but it will begin generating the post. There we go. We got a LinkedIn post. Now we can have it, we can modify it to kind of say whatever we'd like. And you're like, okay, this is, you know, I get that I can generate the text, but I actually just want to post it to LinkedIn. Well, you can also build that into your workflow as well. If we click, we can, all we do is we just add more blocks to our workflow. We say, okay, view all blocks. I can look up LinkedIn. There's the create LinkedIn post block. And now, just like these launch variables, which represent values, we can also save the output of the AI model to a variable as well. So I can change the output behavior from displaying to user to save to variable, and I can call this the post. And then we can call that variable again using those double curly braces, post, right? Now I might also want to verify that that is the post, and so I can display that content back to me beforehand using this display content block. So now what are we doing? We're getting the page content. We're generating a LinkedIn post. We're displaying it back to us so that we have that human in the loop interaction. And if I continue, I post that automatically to LinkedIn. Now you'll need to connect your LinkedIn account. You'll see this says dynamic. I have my LinkedIn account already connected. If you don't have it connected, you click connect new account and sign in, give MindStudio permission to post on your behalf. So I can connect it here. The other thing that I noticed, and I know the text is a little bit hard to read, but this is not the exact post style that I like. So I'm gonna just modify this generate text block, and we can make as many edits as we want. Generate a LinkedIn post that forms a strong opinion about the content. I am just a viewer slash reader. And then I can say make sure to include the URL of the content. Now, the URL of the content is not in the main text, but we can pull in multiple variables, right? So we can use the start block. We have access to this URL, so we can just include that. And just say URL and give it, using those double curly braces, the URL. See, how I'm kind of labeling things here. Okay, so let's go ahead and republish it. It's going to save our changes. And now let's run this again. I can close it out. I can click on the button. Now it's going to think about the LinkedIn post. It's going to generate the text. I know it's a little bit hard to see, but I'll show you the final output in a separate page. Oh, I can see the output here. This was the last output. After watching this conversation between Neil deGrasse Tyson and Nobel laureate, I'm convinced we're living through one of the most exciting moments in physics since Einstein. Made a really cool post, right? Included the link to the post. If I clicked on the next button, it would then automatically post to my LinkedIn profile. I'm not going to click on the next button because I don't want it to post, this demo post to my LinkedIn profile. But in just a couple of minutes, I was able to automate my LinkedIn game, right? I can now fine tune it to make it sound like me. Um, I can have it output specifically what I want it to output. So it's super easy and it's all using essentially this three block pattern with like maybe one or two more steps, right? But I'm doing the same thing each time I build the agent. I bring in data from somewhere, I process that data with AI somehow, and then I do something with that AI output. So if there's anything to take away, it's that pattern. right? And figuring out how to use that pattern in various ways across your own lives, right? I'm going to show you. Actually, this might be a good time. I'm going to just pause and see if there are any questions about, what we're talking about here specifically. And then I have a bunch of other stuff that I can show you, right? Irina?
Hi, thank you so much. This was super helpful. I have a question regarding the most recent example that you went over with the LinkedIn post. Is there a
Hmm.
way that we can create our own profile so that it knows our style of writing and that way, we don't have to worry about that before it posts?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I didn't cover this, but it's a good time to cover it. Is we have two options. We can add another label inside of our prompt. Am I still sharing my screen?
Yes, I can see
Okay.
it.
We can add another label called my writing style and provide examples. Here are some examples of my previous posts, and then just paste in, whatever LinkedIn post you made. So that's one way to do it. The other is we have this thing called the system prompt.
Mhm.
And the system prompt is basically a place where you can put in any sort of global information that you want the workflow to know at all times. And so you can use the system prompt, and we even have this generate prompt tool, and we can say, um, create a style guide and brand guidelines, or maybe not create, I'll just put style guide and brand guidelines around LinkedIn posts. And it's going to take a couple of seconds to generate this thing, but then we'll have, or you can use ChatGPT or Claude or whatever you want to use to generate these guidelines, or you can add your examples in here. Um, but once this is done, this is basically knowledge that it's going to have every time it writes content for you, right? Um,
That's
you'll need
great.
to do this in every single agent that you build, but it's just a matter of copying and pasting that information in. So once this finishes generating, again, should take just a second. Not sure why. I've done enough of these to know that always when I'm on Zoom, it just takes a little bit longer for some reason. So I do apologize for that. Maybe I'll refresh the page here. Oh, that's okay. We know I can ask my friend Claude to generate it. Brand guidelines for posting to LinkedIn. Great. So we can kind of take all of this. Just going to use this, copy it in, and we could put, add another label. Make sure you enclose the label so you have a start and end, and then you can just, whoops, paste all of this in. Whatever was generated, right? Now we have notes on our voice and tone, the content pillars, all this stuff, and when it writes the post, it will take all of this into account.
This is great. One more quick question. When we generate text, do we have the option to pick the model that we are using? Like, for example, I prefer Claude over others for writing. Like, do we have that option?
Yes, 100%. So one thing that is unique to my building workflows in MindStudio is not only do you have the option to pick your model, like your default model, but you can actually select the model that you want to use for each individual step in the workflow.
Oh, wow.
So a little bit about selecting models. So I'm in this model settings tab, and this is going to define my default model, right? I can click on here. We have over 200 different models to choose from. I've highlighted some of my favorites here, although some are now a little bit outdated. But we have all of the major model providers. So if you like Claude, you can choose Claude. If you like, GPT models, you go to OpenAI, you find all the GPT models that are available, Perplexity, and you basically select whichever model you want. There are a couple of considerations when choosing a model. Um, the first consideration is cost, obviously, right? Each time you use an AI model, you're billed for the usage of that AI model. And again, our we don't mark it up at all. It's just whatever it costs is what it costs. It's like using electricity. When you turn the light on, you get billed for the electricity used. And each model has its own prompt and response costs associated with it. So this um, and it's the way that it's measured, the way that it's metered is via this thing called tokens, right? You'll see this word come up frequently. A token is essentially equates to three-fourths the amount of words. So a good example of this, if we go to model settings here, is here we have the max response size in tokens. If I type in 100 tokens, that means 75 words, right? So um, some models have different prices for inputs and outputs. The other thing is certain models have this thing called a context window. And the context window is how much information you can actually input at one time into the model itself. Larger context windows means you can provide that model with more information per single individual call to the AI model. So something like 200,000 tokens typically is more than you'll ever use in a single call to an AI model. It's something you don't really have to worry about anymore. But in the early days of these when these AI models first started coming out, this was at like 8,000 or 16,000, and you would definitely reach like a maximum. Now not so much. Like a lot of these models are 200,000 tokens. Google and a couple of Anthropic models are 1 million tokens, and that's basically like uploading like all three Lord of the Rings novels, and you'd still have room to like put in more text as like an input, right? So not something you really have to worry about anymore. But yeah, sorry, that's a long way of saying yes, you can change the model anytime. To change the model in a specific step, you click on the block and you scroll down and you can see the model settings here at the bottom. And um, a lot of times we also this related to your question, but not exactly answering the just kind of a different related question is a lot of times we get asked like, what's the best model to use? For general purpose, I recommend to most people just using the most recent model from like the what I call like the big three of these text providers, which is like Anthropic, that would be like Claude, Sonnet, 4.5 Sonnet. Opus is like the high high end model. Sonnet's like the middle. Haiku is the like cheap and fast model. They're all very capable, so don't, just because depending on what you're doing, if all you're doing is generating text, even something like Haiku will be perfectly fine. Models from Google, always a good bet. They have large context windows, they're cheap, they're fast. And then OpenAI, GPT 5 or 5.1 or whatever mini or any of those models, you're going to be perfectly fine with most of the things that you're trying to do. Um, there are cases where, you may like the style of output, which is something to consider. So like, do I like the way that this model writes more than a different model? So you'll have to test out which one you like more, right? And we have a tool to actually do that. It's called the profiler. So if you go to this profiler thing, you'll see we can actually compare two models side by side. So if I wanted to, take a look at Claude 4.5 Haiku versus, GPT 4.1 Mini, right? We could then give it the same prompt, write a um, short story about a dog and a Race car in space. And we can see the outputs side by side. So you get to compare the models and see, okay, which one generated faster, which one cost more, which one created the better output, right? So we clearly saw that in this test, Claude 4.5 Haiku generated much faster. We can see here the prices. It looks like, you know, this was a bit, GPT 4.1 mini was a bit cheaper. And the output, I would say in Claude was a bit better to my liking, right? So like I could make these comparisons. You could also compare, as many models as you like side by side and test out all these different models. Any other questions, folks, before we move on?
I had one more question. So right now we just pasted one URL and we produced one post, but is it possible to like have more URLs and create more posts, or that's not possible within one agent?
It is possible. It's not something we cover in these workshops because it does require a bit more of an advanced technique, but I'll actually show you an like what that looks like in practice. I have this agent. Let me just open it up really quick. You can basically run sub workflows. So basically, you'll create a list of URLs, and
Mhm.
then you would run that sub process for each URL in that list.
Makes
Um, yeah, so it would look
Thank you.
something, no problem. Let me see if I can find it for you really quick. Oops. There we go. Here we go. So, like an example of this is uh, I am I have a Google search query, right? I will use this Google search block. And when I use this Google search block, what I get back is actually, it's not one result. It's like, in this case, 10 results or 100 results, right? And so I can go through and for each result, run this sub workflow that I called scrape, where I then scrape the URL and do something with it.
I see. Okay, this is awesome. Thank you.
No problem. I have an actual demo agent that I'm going to showcase that does the same thing, but in a different way. Cool. Any other questions? No? Awesome. Okay. Well, if you do, feel free to um oh, I see Suzanne, you typed a question, is there a tutorial on how to run these sub workflows? Yes, there definitely is. If you go to our university.mindstudio.ai, we have a whole section on running sub workflows to process data. I'll drop a link in the chat. It is
Thank,
a little bit more of a, more advanced, but totally doable.
thank you so much.
No problem. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of other agents um, that I've built. And I also, but before I do that, I would love to actually explain kind of what what I'm teaching you versus what's possible, right? Because this is a 2 hour kind of intro session, and we've built like these very simple workflows. Um, there's kind of two ends of the spectrum here, right? And I've shown you kind of one end of the spectrum. We get one block does one thing, but you can actually make these very complex workflows, right? And so if I click on ready to use, let me just quickly show you this agent called the deep research agent. If we look at this agent, you can actually see this has its own landing page that you can create as part of the settings. But we can also, this agent does more than just create a short output, right? Like keep in mind this entire page was generated using an AI agent, right? Like this image was generated with AI, each section on this page, all of these takeaways, all of the graphics here. Um, the images were sourced using the same AI agent, or they were generated on their own. Um, all of this research was done using this single AI agent kind of built all of this and compiled it and put it all together. And then it's not just making stuff up. It goes through and it finds all these sources and it pulls, quotes from each of these sources, and you can, check out like where it got its information from, right? And this agent, it's not really showing on this particular one, maybe on this one, but it also has the ability, nope, I want to find a good example of this, to create a podcast where both voices are also AI generated and the script's AI generated. And uh, let's see. No, okay. Doesn't matter. You'll just have to take my word for it. I'll show you where it appears in the build because I don't want to waste a bunch of time just trying to find one output. Um, And the cool part about, I'm going to show you how this is built, but the cool part about every agent in this ready to use store is that you can open all of these up. You'll see TLDRs already here. You can click on any of these and you can make a copy of it. And that way you have a copy that you can play around with. And if you mess it up, don't worry, make another copy. You can make as many copies as you want. We don't charge you for making copies. There's nothing like it's really easy to like go in, experiment, play around with stuff. So if we look at this agent, you'll notice there's a bunch of different workflows. There's a bunch of these things called user inputs. And user inputs are essentially these Google Forms style form fields that can collect information in various ways, right? Whether it's like a form or this one's dynamic, this one is like a multiple choice, bunch of different ways to collect information. And then there's actually a bunch of these things called custom functions. And custom functions allow you to extend the capabilities of MindStudio with custom code if you're a coder, right? And if you're not a coder, like I'm not a coder, I use my friend Claude to help me, write the code for me. And then I will make a custom function. And if there's something like some sort of functionality that's not available on MindStudio, you can now make it available on MindStudio for yourself via this custom code, right? Um, so it has all this stuff. The way that this works and the way that this agent operates is you start with this entry flow. And this entry flow it has this user input block, and it asks the user to submit a request. What do you want me to research? And then it goes through, and in this main workflow, all of the magic happens. So, first, there's this thing called a logic block that basically uses AI to make a decision as to which way it should route the workflow. And this logic block basically says, did the user type in gibberish? Is it off topic? Like, is it worth spending all this time and effort into actually researching this thing, or is it just trying to mess with me? Is the human just trying to mess with me and break me, right? If the answer is yes, it is gibberish, it'll say, it'll say back to the user, hey, you need to type something real, otherwise I can't work. If it is a valid request, it will go through, it will then enrich the user's request. So it'll say, hey, um, the user typed in this, let's make that request a little more interesting and relevant. And then it goes and builds its own research plan. And then this user context block actually will ask follow-up questions. So if I said, go and research space travel for me, it'll say, oh, what part of space travel are you interested in? Are you interested in, the vehicles it takes to get into space? Are you interested in surviving in space? Are you interested in cohabitation among astronauts? Like, what specifically do you want to know about, right? And it'll ask these follow-up questions. Once it gets all that information, it creates this like very broad research plan. And in this broad research plan, it basically generates a bunch of Google search queries. And then it goes out into the internet and runs all of these queries, right? It gets all these Google searches back, It then goes through and will pull quotes from all of these places. It'll analyze the content from all of these different websites, and it'll organize itself into, structured data and make it all nice. And then it'll do it again. It'll create this deep research plan. So it'll take all of that information, then come up with a secondary set of queries where it will go through and perform additional research. And then it will organize all of that data, compile this final report based off all of the data that was gathered. And then you can actually, we didn't, I didn't cover this, but you can actually have blocks all run at the same time by running them in parallel rather than sequentially. So if these blocks, for example, have nothing to do with one another, one sources images, one creates a podcast, one creates visualizations, one makes a cover image, they all run at the same time. Then when they're all done running, all of this gets sent into a block that, makes all the data for the report, generates the final asset, and then displays that report back to us. Um, and so you can see how, even though this is a complex, more complex workflow, the same basic framework still applies, right? Like we're bringing in data from somewhere. Part of that data in this workflow is from the human, part of it is from the internet searches. And then we are processing that data with AI, saying, hey, take all of this and compile it into a research report for me. And then we are doing something with that data. We're making a podcast from that data. We are sourcing a bunch of images from that data. And then we are putting it all together and displaying it back to us, the human, as a final research report that, ends up looking something like one of these things, right? This nice looking research report. And these are all shareable assets, right? Like I can click on the URL and I can post this in here and it's a public asset that I can now share with my colleagues, right? Or, with um willing workshop participants, right? Um so it's super useful. You can make all these really complex outputs. Um okay, and you could go into the store. Sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here, but you can go into the store and you can find any of the agents in the store and you can do the same thing. So if I wanted to, look at, any agents for YouTube or for venture capitalist, or I want to generate images and videos, I can click on any of these things and I can make a copy and see how it works. I can then try running it. These are some outputs. This is a overview of Asana. This is a tool that is used to get key information about a company for a salesperson, right? Um, so that they know some basic information before they hop on a call with somebody. So that's super useful. This can generate a podcast. There's a bunch of stuff in here, right? Let me quickly show you another agent that I've built. I will show you the agent itself and how it's built. And this agent allows me to go onto LinkedIn, and I have this spreadsheet of, this is effectively my CRM of people, right? I've been collecting people, right? And I don't use this often, but I can basically go to LinkedIn, search for, marketing director, whatever role I'm looking for. Let's type in marketing uh, director. And I can go into a people search. And then I get this list that LinkedIn provides for me of marketing directors in my area, right? Well, now let's say I want to contact all of these people. I can now use my agent. I have this agent here called extract people to Google Sheet. And when I run this agent, it will go through and it will find information about each person, and it'll even get me their emails, right? And it'll add all of that information to the spreadsheet. So if I scroll down, you'll be able to see one by one people appearing in my spreadsheet here. Now, it might take a couple of seconds because it's, currently running, but these are the people that were added to the spreadsheet, right? That was super quick. I now have these new names and I can run this multiple times, right? I go to the next page and I click on these three dots and I click on new run and I scroll down and I can go to the next page and click on new run and I can scroll down, go to the next page, click on run, and I can scroll down and I can collect all of the contact information of these new leads instantly, right? All these people will get added into my spreadsheet one by one. There we go. Look at that. It's populating in one by one. Now, this agent takes pennies to run, right? And it's much more accurate for you to just do a simple search on somebody and get this information than to download a giant list from some database where you don't know where that person is specifically, right? Um, Super cool. I just collected like 40 contacts within a matter of minutes, right? And the way this agent is built is very similar to other agents that I've showcased here. I have this agent built for the browser extension. I think I have too many tabs open, so I'm just gonna close out some of these tabs here. And the way that this agent works, am running this in the browser extension. I use a generate text block and oh wow, this looks super familiar, right? This is that same exact pattern that I built. It's just with a few additional steps and some, uh, you know, sub workflow that helps me actually add them to the Google Sheet. And this agent will take all of the raw HTML from the page and extract all of these things, their first name, last name, job title, their LinkedIn profile URL, because all of that information is instantly available on that people search. And I'm also using this special output schema to create structured data out of it. Now, I don't know if you've worked with JSON before. We have a whole boot camp that teaches you how to actually, build agents like this and convert things into JSON so that you can easily manipulate and work with data. But this gives you like, if you thought that, just outputting text gives you superpowers, the internet runs on JSON. Services run on JSON. And so the way that they communicate with one another, the way that they share this data between different third-party services is typically done through what's called these JSON payloads. Um, so we get each of these and we essentially make a list of people. And then we run this workflow where we send each person down into the sub workflow where we then have an AI agent, or excuse me, an AI model, in this case Sonar, figure out the domain where that person most likely works. I plug into this service via a block called hunter.io. So those that are not familiar with hunter.io, it's basically a giant database filled with people's emails and contact information. We have a block that connects it to it directly, so you don't need your own API key. You can just, piggyback off our API key to use it. And then once I have all of this information, I have this update Google Sheet block that plugs directly into that Google Sheet that I showed you. So now it's continuously updating, my CRM. You could have it update HubSpot as well. You could have it update, um, you know, Active Campaign as well. Whatever CRM you're using, you can plug into that CRM and have it update values and add new contacts in. I even have another agent here that's a little more complex, but it does something similar. Um, where if we go into the ready to use category, we have this agent called the ICP to HubSpot CRM. And the way this agent works is you basically plug in job titles you're looking for, the location, the company size, organizations where they work, or any keywords, and it will go and look at a database and just pull all the people and add them to your HubSpot database like instantly. Um, so a lot of different ways that you can leverage AI in your own daily lives. And that's what I again, that's kind of the whole point of this session is like you are the expert with a little bit of practice and a little bit of time and understanding what are the steps my agent needs to take. You now unlock massive, massive productivity for yourself, right? And in addition to that, we're also beginning to focus more and more on image and video. So if you go into this images and videos section, there's an expanding library of these image templates, right? and video templates. I can show you a couple, like this auto shoot one, where if we were to run this, I can now upload, a photo. Doesn't matter what photo, I'll upload, a photo of, let's upload a selfie here. Here we go, photos. There we go. Here's a selfie that I use. We also just released the ability to create these templates for yourselves and request payments from people. So if you're building an app and you want to like sell the AI agent service to a person, you just add a couple of blocks and now you can charge for that individual service. So in this case, AutoShoot costs 50 cents. I'm going to pay the 50 cents. It's going to analyze my picture and it's going to give me an entire photo shoot, right? It's going to give me a bunch of other headshots that I can now use for myself just based off of this one image. So let's quickly, I don't know how long this is going to take, but it's going to produce several different images. While this is working, I'll show you another agent. Um, this image and video workbench stuff is really, really cool. This is a an agent called MindStudio, and the way that this works is when you run the agent, you can make you basically upload a reference image, you upload the motion, and then it will apply the motion to that reference image. So I can import an image. Let's see here. Where's my reference image? Here we go. Here's like an anime image, right? And I can import a video. Let's say I wanted to import a video of, a person dancing. Now I can begin and it will start to, apply that motion to that image, which is super cool. This might take just a second, but there's this emerging library of image and video templates. If you are interested in image and video generation, it's a super hot space right now, especially when it comes to like these creator tools. We're actually hosting a hackathon on Saturday where there'll be like cash prizes. You can win like a year subscription plus cash to the platform. Um, just by making an app like this. And it's pretty easy to, you can even use some of our templates here and just modify them to make like some other type of cool image. Um, so it's pretty interesting. Like all of these Lumia Studio, this thing basically creates professional lookbooks for products. So if you look at this, this is an AI output, right? It makes this like, you know, this like slideshow and you can see like all of the campaign, like marketing campaign notes. These are all images that were generated with AI, all of these product images. So it's super impressive, right? And this is just a variation of this auto shoot um, template, which is still in the process of generating images. This is also in the process of generating video. The one thing I will say with images and video, which it was the case before also with text models, but things will get faster and cheaper over time. We're kind of at the cusp where video is like, the big thing. It still takes a lot of compute and a lot of time to make videos, but it's pretty amazing the things that you can build using these couple apps here. Okay, I think it's almost done. Let's see what my what my photo shoot looks like. There we go. That's awesome, right? Like it's able to basically take my image and make a bunch of other shots of me at my desk, you know, and it looks pretty real, right? Like it's not bad. So pretty cool the way that this works. Same thing for Motion Studio. Here is now the motion applied to this anime character. There we go. Like these things are amazing, right? It's like it still baffles me. Every time I play around with these, I'm like, you can make awesome stuff with AI. And it's not that difficult to actually make because of these interfaces, this abstraction on MindStudio that lets you link things up together. If you can think through the process uh, that it takes to build something like this, then it's just a matter of plugging things into one another to make it all work. But yeah, pretty sweet. I might actually use some of these. Surprised how good they came out. There's a bunch of you can see a bunch of examples of this, by the way. So if you look at something like this, here's like a Polaroid that somebody took. Now they have a whole Polaroid photo shoot. This is like, whoops, sorry about that. This is like some product shots or like, you know, different basketball shots. This is like a photo studio shoot. Yeah, the other thing is you can actually, if you build apps or these AI agents in MindStudio, um, we have the ability for you to create these custom branded experiences. And let me show you what I mean by that. I have, let's see if I can find the actual agent here. So let's take a look actually at AutoShoot. You can use this feature called a custom interface, and the custom interface is essentially this thing that allows you to vibe code what you want the interface to look like. So it doesn't have to look like just a default boring output. It'll take a second, but once it's done, you can now make changes to it just by chatting in this interface, right? So you can create these custom branded experiences, provide your own image URLs, whatever you want to do. And I'm just going to wait for this to load up and I'll show you how it works. So here we have auto shoot, right? Now I'm going to say make it look like Windows 95. And watch as it goes through and rewrites all of this code. I don't need to do anything. I just gave it the one note, make it look like Windows 95. And it's going to go through and restyle everything, right? We'll just give it just a second because I'm kind of curious as to whether or not it can actually do this, but uh, I think it should work. And it's super powerful. Like this, has anybody tried vibe coding something before? Just by show of hands? No? Yes? Yeah, so if you vibe coded before, you know that the bar to create these applications is now like way easier, right? Okay, that's awesome. Look, drag and drop a file or browse a file. I can then, upload a random stock photo. Wow, it's amazing. Like it looks just like Windows 95, right? It's pretty sweet. So, you can vibe code this to make it look however you'd like, right? You can also connect this. This is a new feature that dropped yesterday, but you can also, if you are using Claude Code, you're like more of like a nerdy person who likes to work in a code editor. You can connect this directly to Claude Code. So you can do this thing called Start Local Connection. You basically copy this into your terminal, and it will clone your. It'll essentially clone your the project, and then you can use Claude Code to vibe code whatever interface you want. It's pretty sweet. Okay, I'm going to pause again and just open up the floor for questions. Normally, these sessions, like you guys lucked out because normally these sessions have like hundreds of people, and today was relatively light. So I got through a lot of what I intended to get through a bit early. So if you have questions, now's the time to ask. Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep showcasing a bunch of random stuff and going off script a bit.
Hey Luis, there's a few questions in the chat. So one thing is, how is it possible to get permission to onboard like their created apps on MindStudio?
Is it possible? Wait, sorry, ask that one more time.
Is it possible to onboard apps onto MindStudio? So I think what they're asking is it possible for them to have include their agents in the ready to use?
Oh, yeah. So we're in the process of making that easier to do. What I would recommend is for folks to join, like if you want to submit an agent to the store, um, we have we used to have a form available on here. Maybe, oh, it's here. It's in the community section. Click on submit your own, and that will take you to a Notion form. And you just put in your name, email, and your agent URL, and then we'll review each submission individually and add those. If it, we just have to make sure for security purposes that you're not doing anything malicious. And then we'll get it live on the site. So you can totally submit. We're also working on improving this experience so that we can actually open up a proper marketplace for any agents that you build. Because this payments portal is a relatively new feature. It dropped last week. Previously, we didn't allow for you to process payments for specific services, like specific things that the agent does. Um, so we're kind of working that in right now. But yeah, totally doable. Any other questions that appeared in the chat, Josh?
Yeah, there's one more. Someone asked if we build apps on this, can we brand them? So can you brand
Oh
agents?
yeah. Yeah, I did cover that with the I covered that with the vibe coding stuff. So you can vibe code your own custom branded um experience in any agent that you build. And similarly, you can also vibe code what the output looks like so that um that research report that I showed you was something that is vibe coded together using different data that we pulled in from various places earlier in the workflow. Any other questions, folks? Working on creating some LLM councils, multi-decision making rather than linear. Yeah, so even when people talk about LLM councils and like multiple agents working together, we typically think about kind of like a like swarm mentality, but there's usually one like overseer agent that will decide kind of where to route things. And so the way that you would architect something like that is you would make one one parent agent, one manager agent to then go and delegate tasks to all of your other agents. And so you do that with the same run workflow block, but rather than running a sub process, you basically just tell it to run a workflow or a tool from a different agent that you build. Um, Mika asks, I have 300 non-tech adult students who are learning AI in my schools. I want to teach them this. Where should I start off learning to deliver them the right info? That's a great question. So we have a couple of options in terms of learning pathways. Like if you want to master building AI agents and MindStudio, the first place, if you want to learn on your own, I would recommend that you go to our MindStudio University. This is a place that has hours and hours of free content that teaches you all the basics of building AI agents. Now, I will say this has not, we move really fast, and so this is not 100% updated to the most current version of MindStudio, and it's also missing some new features that have appeared since we put this curriculum together. But you still get all of the fundamentals, like all of that is still constant and still the same. We have documentation on every single block in MindStudio, every model in MindStudio, how to use MindStudio in various ways. The other place that we are is good to watch out for is our YouTube channel. So our YouTube channel goes through and showcases a bunch of different builds. Um, and it has a bunch of different tutorials on here as well as several other master classes. We also have, and I'm giving you a lot of stuff, but we're going to give you the links. And Josh actually shared the main links. The third link on there is our events calendar. So our events calendar because we host a bunch of different workshops like this. This was the AI Agents 101 workshop. You can see we're live right now. We do a bunch of different workshops for different, people at different levels, um, different roles. There's a bunch of workshops that we offer. And so if you're ever interested in a workshop, you can click on this link that Josh just shared in the chat and you can sign up for another workshop. And then the last thing is if you want kind of like an accelerated program where you're like, okay, I I love the fact that all of this stuff is here. It's all free. I can go through it on my own but I know I'm not actually going to, and I want somebody to keep me accountable, and I want to condense all that learning into like 1 or 2 days. We offer a boot camp, right? Where you can pay to come in, you learn directly from me, you learn directly from our CEO, Dimitri, who's also super knowledgeable in building these AI agents. Those boot camps, we basically teach you everything you need to know there's kind of three flavors of it. We do a 1 day boot camp where you just learn kind of the fundamentals and the basics of building. We do a 2 day boot camp where we expand on that. It's basically a continuation of the 1 day boot camp where we teach you about how to read and write, JSON and use structured data to create and iterate through these like giant lists and use AI to kind of parse through all that. We have a 30-day boot camp, which goes beyond just learning the skills needed to build agents, but also teaches you what happens after, right? Like what should you be doing? How do you become visible on LinkedIn as an expert in this field? By the end, there are several people who have gone through these boot camps within, a lot of them are either like searching for new jobs, they want to find new career opportunities, they want to be promoted at their current role. And we've had several instances where they take this boot camp within, um, the fastest was like 2 days, but that's not typical. But usually it's like a couple weeks, a month, like they find their next role. And so that's simply by like learning about how we post and how we become visible and how we, attract the attention of, folks that are looking for AI skills. So, um, a lot of people find value in the boot camps. I recommend that if you're interested in learning more about that, we you check out our page. I actually spent a lot of time with alumni from those boot camps and got to they were nice enough to let me interview them. So if you want to see kind of what people said about the boot camps, we have an actual page and a video that highlights some of the people that have joined that boot camp. Maybe Josh can find it. I don't seem to have it right off the bat here. Hold on. Maybe I'll try to pull it up here. MyStudio.ai. Maybe it's slash bootcamp. Oh, here we go. So if you're interested in the boot camp, feel free to take a look at what other people have said about it. I take a lot of pride in teaching people. Like I am super passionate about like helping people understand really and simplifying like things that seem really complex but are actually not as complex as you might think. And so if you like this session and want to spend a little more time with me, I'd recommend doing that. But I won't be more pushy beyond that. We have a bunch of free options for you to learn on your own. And then we also have a Slack channel and a community forum that is extremely active. It's filled with some of the nicest people you'll ever meet. They're always down to help and collaborate. Um, so that's a long-winded way of saying we're here to help you make whatever you want to make. Um, and yeah, that's it. Any other questions? I'm kind of looking at the chat, or if you'd like to raise your hand or speak up, we do have some additional time. But if there's no questions, we can get some time back too. I don't want to waste your time here. Okay. Oh, let's see. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for hopping on today, spending a little bit of time with me. I hope you learned something valuable. You may get a notification just asking me how I did in this session. Please feel free to leave any feedback if you have any feedback on how I can improve these sessions, make them better for future people who are attending. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you around in the Slack or at a boot camp or in just in our community forum, posting cool stuff. Remember that this is not it's not super complex to build AI agents. You can build one in less than 5 minutes. I showed you how to do it. You're gonna get a recording at the end of this so you can look back on it later. And yeah, we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. All right, take care, everyone.